Looking forward to that. Invite Derek to co-host. How you doing, Derek?
Starting route. All right, hold on. I'm gonna give y'all a hint. Let me give y'all a hint.
Hey, buddy, how you
Oh,
doing?
that's my John.
Doing good, man. How about you?
Pretty good. I saw that Deshaun
I wish I
Ruffin
was you,
shut it
not
down for the
knowing
year,
what I'm about to show
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I know.
Oh, check it out. I'm
Just
pulling
but
it.
he's
another hit
not.
for this
Pulling it.
basketball team,
We
isn't it?
here. Hold up. Here we
Yeah,
go.
he's not
Hold
going
up.
into the
Hold up.
portal, which that actually tells you something a little bit. I think.
Yeah, 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 man. There's a
It's about
complete
time.
reset that's gonna have to be done with that program, man. It's just tough to watch.
Yeah,
You're not loving this.
it's amazing with Andy Kennedy and everything got so
Hey,
stale
it's
at
about that
the end
time.
where he
It's
resigned in
official, y'all.
February
Y'all know what it
Yep.
is, right?
and
It's
we hired
official.
Kermit.
Bad
Kermit goes
boys
to the
for
tournament and
life,
just
baby.
downward
That's
spiral
right.
from that moment. I
Life.
know Kermit's a good
We
guy,
did.
Yeah,
and
he is.
But it's
yeah, I
still
just
bad
feel
boys
like
for life. But the third
basketball
one,
changed
we
so
the
much
third
in
one
that
was
period,
it was called Bad
and
Boys for
we
we shouldn't
basically
like
just
but
hired
we shouldn't
the
we
modern
shouldn't have
day
called it
Bobby
that
Knight,
though. It's like
and
the
basketball
three
just
was the
completely
E.
changed over.
The E was the three was the.
I hate
But
that
this
it's
is
Yeah,
Bad
happening.
Boys
I mean,
4. It's official. That's right.
yeah. It's basically college
Yo,
sports
I
as a
got
whole, right? The
yeah,
last 5 or so years, just the landscape's constantly changing on you right now. Things are done so much differently now than they were 5 and certainly 10 years ago.
yeah, yeah. It really is. Anyway, since you're in here, Derek, why don't we we're getting ready for baseball season. How about a little bit of update of what you're thinking about on the baseball team right
Man, I think we're going to be really good. I think the key, which I'm not worried about because I trust Mike Bianco and his staff to get it figured out. Figure out the pitching staff, right? With Mallett's going down, you got to figure. You've got your Friday and your Saturday guy pretty much in place. I think. Figure out Sunday. It sounds like Xavier Rivas may get the first shot at that, and keep Doherty and Nichols both in the bullpen, which makes a lot of sense with Mallett's going down there. But yeah, I think the key to this team's newcomers stepping up and showing what they can do right off the bat, but also some of these guys that have been in the program stepping up, taking on a bigger role. One guy I'm really interested in seeing to see if he can take that big step is Jackson Kimbrell out of the bullpen. Give us a lefty out of the pen, and just another reliable arm period at the back end of games there out of the pen would be real big. And he flashed, and I thought he looked pretty good at times last year in the limited action he got. So that's one guy I'm looking at, and then Rivas, JT Quinn. See if one of them can take over the Sunday role. I think Saunier's pretty solidified there on Saturday, and we already know what we got on Friday with Hunter Elliott. We're always going to have an ace, and we got a sure enough ace this
now?
year.
For us that doesn't know about Sonier, what tell us about him. Give us a scouting report on him.
Yeah, I mean, he's well beyond his years to be a true freshman as far as how he pitches. Mike Bianco actually made the statement earlier this week that he doesn't think he's had a true freshman that's as far along as Saunier is at this point in his career as a freshman. And I mean, you think back the guys he's had pitching for him, the Casey and Lynn and Pomeranz and Wall and all those guys. I mean, they were studs basically from the get go, and he thinks Saunier's ahead of all of them as far as being able to pick all this stuff up. Good live fastball. I mean, he's got a big arm. If he wasn't hurt last year, he probably wouldn't be in Oxford, Mississippi right now. He would have gone in the draft if he didn't have or if he didn't lose some time last year, senior in high school. But the sliders where he's going to make his money. He's got a really good breaking ball, and that's one thing I'm really excited about too. Getting able to see it in game. You watch some film here and there, and you see some stuff from inner squad, but once the lights come on, seeing it in game and seeing how he pitches and how he's able to utilize mainly secondary pitches off of that fastball. He's got such a big fastball to go with it. Man, he's the next great Ole Miss pitcher. I firmly believe that.
Okay, what does his fastball get up to, and is he a righty or a lefty?
He's a righty, and he sits 93, 94 somewhere in there, and then can touch all the way up to 97, 98 when he really needs a little extra juice. he can really hum it in there when he wants to. I want to say there's a 2 week stretch there in fall ball. I think they said he averaged like 94.7 miles an hour on his fastball for that whole 2 week stretch. I mean, so he can blow it by you. One thing I'm interested to see is it does it have some run or some cut, or is it a heavy fastball? Those are all things that play in that play a part in the pitcher having an effective fastball there. If you're going to sit there and just throw it straight down, if it just goes straight, anybody can time up a fastball no matter how hard it is. So you want a little run, cut, a little bit of movement, and that's something I'm interested to see once the season gets started.
Yeah, and especially with him following Hunter Elliott, who's going to throw it up there at 80 miles an hour consistently. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point
Yeah.
too. You're going to be seeing two completely different pitchers there on back to back days to start Friday and Saturday, and you may see somebody very similar to Hunter Elliott there on Sunday with Rivas. Soft tossing lefty that his fastball it plays up a little bit from what the radar gun will tell you. He's 87, 88, 89 mile an hour fastball guy too that really works well off of his breaking stuff. Had a really good career at Division II Indianapolis. He transferred in, but yeah, you could see a guy just like Hunter Elliott pitching on Sundays, and if he's able to figure it out and compete at this level, that gives you a really strong three Friday through Sunday.
You're right. I'm looking forward to it. And we're going to have Derek on the show. I think he'll be on Friday's show talking
Mm-hmm.
baseball. We'll do a little preview about that as well. But Derek, you know, with late signing day being tomorrow, and it looks like Ole Miss might be, let's say, busier than normal than they have been in recent late signing days. Not like they used to be, but
Yeah,
I mean, there's probably five names that Ole Miss fans need to keep an eye on. It doesn't necessarily, they're not going to sign them all, but they're going to sign some of them. So anywhere between probably two and five is the option for tomorrow. Anything you're hearing right now?
yeah. No, nothing in particular. This new recruiting period that we have now with the early signing day and all these transfer windows and all that with the portal, and then you get what us traditionalists like to think of as National Signing Day,
Hmm.
right? And it's just so different right now, and it's not as big the things it used to be. There's not as many players out there to get, and then even after this, you've got the whole transfer portal window opening up again in the spring too. But no, as far as tomorrow goes, there's nothing really in particular I'm hearing.
Okay.
Uh, I just know that by the time this signing day ends, go through spring training, we're going to be going through all of this again with the portal opening again, and it just seems like a never-ending thing now.
Yes, and I'm gonna be honest, I love it, but I mean, I understand why it might be tiring for some because I don't have to cover it on a day-to-day basis. If you try to
Yeah,
cover
yeah,
the transfer portal, I'll just feel sorry for you. Uh,
yeah. God bless you, man.
yeah, but the names tomorrow for Ole Miss fans to keep an eye on or an ear on. The offensive lineman from Diablo Valley College, I can't remember the name, it's a Samoan name. He's committed, so he's going to sign tomorrow. You've got Chamberlain Campbell out of Lakewood High School in St. Petersburg, Florida. He's committed. He's going to sign tomorrow. Then you have DJ Holmes, who was the high school leader in sacks with over 30 at Pahokee High School. That is a chance that could go one way or another. If you look at the on-3 RPMs, Ole Miss is the heavy favorite to landing. He's another edge. So Campbell and Holmes, they're both edge players. Now,
Yeah,
you have Jonathan Davis, who's from Lawrence County, who a month ago none of us knew who he was. Now all of a sudden, it's setting up for that Ole Miss Mississippi State typical signing day battle, to where you just don't know what's going to happen and you don't know which way it's going to land. So we'll see how that goes. But like I said, we'll see what happens. But I've heard like RPMs have been put in for Ole Miss. Also heard he was a heavy state lean, so I don't know. And let's see, who was the last? Oh, Tim Diono, the offensive lineman out of Maryland. It looks like he's going to end up at Penn State. But Ole Miss got his last official visit over the weekend. So, I mean, monitor that one, but don't expect anything real to happen there. But those are probably the five names to think about. Somebody else could pop. We'll see exactly what happens. But anyway, see. Derek, are you hearing anything on the transfer portal? Anything left over?
Well, I mean, it's as far as left over, there's still the same old guys in there. You're looking at Kennedy there at Alabama. Everybody's monitoring him, seeing what he ends up doing if he goes back to Bama, if he transfers over. I, I think it's one of the more interesting parts of this offseason for Ole Miss since we've hired Golding is kind of seeing how he's going to reshape this defense. For him to run anything close to the schemes that he wants to, he's basically got to revamp this thing, and you can kind of see it with the kind of players they're getting. You see kind of like you were talking about a second ago. You see them going and getting these edge rushers, right? They got to get some pass rushers in there, and they've really seemed to bulk up the defensive line to get the guys to take up some blockers there in the middle. So that's one thing I'm really interested in this offseason, see how Pete Golden kind of transforms this defense, bringing players in to fit his system.
Yeah, and I don't think people really necessarily understand that the defensive front that Ole Miss really ran last year and the defensive front that Pete Golding wants to run, even though they're both three men fronts, they're done completely different.
Yeah, it's not the
It,
same.
it's not the same at all. So you're looking at instead of having one guy that's an interior defensive lineman that's a space eater, potentially them wanting 300 pounders up front to take up blockers and things like that. And
Yeah,
and I think that'll actually really help. Obviously, they're looking for a jack. They're actively recruiting. A jack is the defensive end linebacker hybrid, and the position that Will Anderson played at Alabama for people that don't know. And I think it'll be interesting to see. That's the reason Chamberlain Campbell committed. That's the reason they're recruiting DJ Holmes. There's a shortness of players at that position. They're going to move some people there, but it might be clunky because while this defense looks right, and when you draw it up on a chalkboard, all the players are going to the same place. The requirements at each position is a little bit different.
yeah, and I think you'll kind of see that with Cedric Johnson in this defense, right? Like, won't he kind of take over that role a little bit, put him that outside linebacker, let him rush and stuff like that?
Ideally, I think Cedric Johnson is the candidate to move over and play the jack position, but he's
Yeah,
at 270
I mean
pounds, and then his backup is probably would probably be like Kari Coleman at 220,
yeah,
and provides a little bit of that physics problem that they're trying to get away from. They want consistency of personnel, I do believe.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely easier when you have the guys that Alabama does, right? But he's come in and kind of revamping it a little bit though. Like I said, I think Cedric will really thrive in this defense with Pete Golden. I think he'll get real creative with him. You see his ability to be able to get to the quarterback. We had to play him so much at defensive end because we had such little uh, personnel there to get some sort of pass rush there. But you end up standing him up and letting him take on the blocker with those big guys eating up guards and stuff inside. You could see a big year out of him.
Yeah, I think the most underrated transfer that Ole Miss signed this year in the transfer portal is Josh Harris because he's listed at 315, 320 pounds. But I've
Yeah,
seen articles where he's up near 350. He was a four-star player out of
good
high
grief.
school. I mean, him and Xavier Harris, they become those those space eater nose guards in the middle of the defense. That's going to allow somebody like JJ Pegues to work a little bit. Both of those guys are going to cause double teams to allow the linebackers to work. You can see what they want to do, and that Ole Miss actually has the personnel on the defensive line at the starting level to get it done. There's still some
Hmm.
recruiting go, but JJ Pegues, Josh Harris, Jared Ivey, because I think he's going to probably put on 10
Yeah,
pounds. He'll be 280, 285 by the time the season starts. And all those guys will be really good up front. You have
yeah,
Cedric Johnson on the edge. I mean, It's a 3-3-5 or a 4-2-5, however you want to describe it, but it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Pegues and Ivy there. I think that's their ideal positions in this kind of scheme, getting them both out there at defensive end. On each end of that big nose tackle, and letting those two guys go to work a little bit too, without having to worry about those big bodies inside because they're so athletic. Especially Pegues, he's so quick out there and so big. He could really do some damage out there for us.
Yeah, he's probably the only true three technique on Ole Miss's roster, but he's a
Yeah,
really good. He's a Parade Jerry level three technique.
yeah. Hmm.
Let's see those five names we talked about. I guess the spring practice dates got released. They're going to start in March. They're going to end in April, like they always do. But it is what it
Surprise,
is. Yeah,
surprise.
and we just have to make it to really, I guess, the start of conference play in baseball season.
Now I'm telling you that second weekend in Oxford, that's going to be a big one. We get Maryland coming into town. That's a really really good team,
Don't they play
really
them
good
four
Big
games in a
Ten
row?
team. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We play on that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we have a midweek game. But then we open up that tournament in Minnesota against the Big Ten against Maryland again.
Why are they playing a tournament in February in Minnesota?
Man, I had this conversation today, as a matter of fact, because Minnesota built the new stadium and it's not covered anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a dome. That's what we were talking about earlier. They're like, yeah, you get to go play in a dome. And I was like, no, they ain't playing in a dome, in Minnesota no more. They got rid of that thing. They decided to spend a whole bunch of money for an outdoor baseball stadium all the way up in Minnesota.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like, what are you
but yeah,
doing?
that was definitely an interesting choice by them.
Yeah, and also makes me wary, that they think, hey, we need to prove our mettle in baseball and get ready for the arduous SEC baseball series. Let's play some games against the Big Ten. I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and but you gotta look at our schedule. We're pretty Big Ten heavy. Not only that tournament up there, we just talked about Maryland, but we also get Purdue for a 3 game set too.
Yeah, that's weird.
I
That's
know,
odd.
I know. Yeah, yeah, it's a good schedule though. We're kind of iron sharpening iron, I guess. If you want to use that phrase with that, but yeah, that Maryland series, I can't wait for that. That's going to be the first true test of the season, and they're the overwhelming favorites in the Big Ten. They've got such a good ball club.
Okay. Well, that's at least good to know that a good Big Ten team's coming down.
Oh yeah, we get the best Big Ten
Yeah.
team.
So before we get out of here, there's one thing that I want to bring up that I haven't necessarily talked about on my show, but I want to talk about here, and eventually I'll probably do a show on it. And that is the work that Lane Kiffin and John Garrison did on the offensive line during this recruitment cycle. They signed 5 players. They lost one. A couple of them transferred out, but they weren't playing anyway.
Big coffee.
They've actually increased the depth, added talent to the room, and just quietly improved an area that everybody was gnashing teeth about. So I'm very impressed with what Lane Kiffin and John Garrison was able to do in early recruiting, the transfer portal, and even this late cycle with the offensive line. I'm impressed there. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to say that. We'll do a little bit of a short one tonight. We're going to have a show tomorrow. I've already recorded it before now. So tomorrow's show, if anything news happens tonight, like the Deshaun Ruffin stuff, will not be on it. But catch that show. Show's available now on the Grove Report. So check that out. We're going to be there as well. But if you listen to in other places, it's going to be in the same place. And tomorrow night, SEC After Dark, me, Corey Burton, Jeb Beecham, Jake Thomas, all talking about the news that Todd Grantham might be going to Alabama, and we're going to be making Jake's life pretty rough. So I want to thank you to Derek for stopping by and us talking about that. Thank you for everybody for showing up, and I'll see you a little bit later. Howdy toddy.
Thanks, bud. Hi, Toddy.